Never sleep again.
Are you afraid of the things that go bump in the night? Do you feel like a zombie after a long night of tossing and turning? Well, then try Dream from LifeWise. Just one tab daily before bed will leave you feeling rested and refreshed every morning. That's right, Dream from LifeWise. Just one simple tab placed on your tongue, it dissolves and lets you drift into dreamland. Text Moose Dream to 754-600-9473 to get you started with your free samples today.
Hey, y'all, this is Lou Temple. You know me as Axel from The Walking Dead, and you're listening to Moose's Monster Mash.
You're listening to Moose's Monster Mash.
When the clowns stop making you laugh, it's time to go home.
Welcome, Horror Hounds, to an all-new episode of Moose's Monster Mash. I'm your host, Moose, and we're here to roll out the new year. And what better way to roll out the new year than to roll it out and roll out the clowns? We're not talking any clowns. We're talking horror clowns. Clowns that kill. Clowns that maim. And when I wanted to do this episode, I couldn't think of anybody else and nobody better to talk about these murderous funny men with than none other than our good friend, Mr. Mikey Taylor.
How's it going?
It's going.
Great.
Ready to dive into some murderous funny men of mayhem?
I absolutely am.
You know, for the listeners who don't know, I wanted you for this is because a few months out of the year, you portray a murderous funny man.
Yeah, for a couple, about six or 8 weeks out of the year, it seems like the clown kind of takes over.
Yeah.
I'm more than I'm not.
You know, Terrifier being huge in pop culture and media right now, clowns are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to look and see twofold. One, when this kind of started, because obviously clowns and horror aren't new. You know, this isn't like a new phenomenon. This has been going on for a while. And two, why people are drawn to the scary clown. And I found conflicting information from both sides to both questions, really.
Always.
Now, to the why, a lot of it boils down to there was a study at University of Sheffield that kids are just, and it goes past the fear of clowns. It's just clowns are just universally disliked by kids. So that just innately builds right there that, ooh, clown scary, clown bad. And so there's always going to be a part of us as humans that have that, instinct that clowns are bad. And when you dial it up in like a murder movie or, some form of horror, whether it's, a psycho thriller or, a murderous clown like art, it's going to feed on that and it's going to grow. And it is an awesome phenomenon to watch.
Yeah.
In your experience as somebody who puts on the makeup and, does this for a living, and you see the, results firsthand. What, I guess, what do you think goes into the psychology of, two-part questions, the psychology of being a convincing evil clown and why it works so well?
Well, as far as like with what I do, and for the people that don't know, I am I'm a haunt actor, and I developed this clown character. His name is Tweaky the clown. The reason that I even developed him is I went to a zombie walk one year, and I figured people aren't going to be scared of zombies there because there's going to be zombies everywhere. I made a zombie clown. And because people are going to be afraid of clowns, there's a large number of the population that has this fear of clowns, and it was really effective. And for many years, I was a silent character, and that was terrifying. So that's where you kind of get the relation to art. Art doesn't speak, okay, and there's something very unsettling about where some kids are terrified of clowns. Other kids find clowns very approachable. Okay, oh look, it's a clown. He might have a balloon for me. He might, something like that. When someone approaches a character or something that should be approachable and it doesn't speak to them, it just looks at them or it honks a horn at them. There's something very unsettling when you can't get a reaction that you're expecting. And then, when I started to actually speak, there's something very unsettling about when someone can say or do these horrible things, whether you're insulting someone or you're threatening someone or you're actually committing violence on someone, you're doing it with a smile on your face. No matter what your facial expression is, you've got the makeup that it has generally a smile or some sort of, it's very off-putting when it's, one presentation and the actions don't necessarily match, So I think that's kind of the basis behind the fears or why it works so well. Now, what the psychology that goes into it, especially in my portrayal in the way that I have to do it, when I initially, present myself, when I jump out or when they first see me, there's going to be that initial, oh my God, it's a clown, and they're scared. Unless I do something extreme, that wears off. So to kind of combat that, I carry a plunger around. That's my weapon. And everybody makes a joke, oh, you're carrying a plunger, until I swing it at them. Then they jump and they duck, and then I can make fun of them because they are scared of a plunger. You have to be able to mix that fear, the initial fear, then make them laugh, entertain them a little bit. They let their guard down, and then you scare them again. And I think that psychology, that's why you see in the different clown films and that different clown characters in movies, there's never a clown that is, well, rarely is there a clown, because there have been some, but rarely is there a clown that is just killing and doing horrible things. There's always a comedic element to it, because that makes you let your guard down.
And then as far as the movie goes, it builds a chance for that jump scare again. Mm-hmm. And it's designed to scare the pants off the viewers. Right.
Well, and it adds a level of, oh my God, this person, whoever's behind this makeup is psychotic, mm-hmm. because you get them, joking and laughing or doing some kind of funny skit. And all of a sudden they flip and, lash out with violence or, do that jump scare. And then they might go right back to, doing something funny. And it's like, how can that emotion or how can that mindset flip flop that easily, So I think that adds a layer to it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that goes into a good scary clown.
Well, and that the funny thing is that analysis also leads into essentially the history of clowns and horror. Mm-hmm. Because like I said previously, there's a lot of back and forth about this archetype used in the genre. Where yes, Edgar Allan Poe has used it in literature, and the Harley Quinn dates back to medieval times. Mm-hmm. So this, like I said, this isn't a new concept, but where it really comes down to a debate, and it's, from what I've seen, is split about 50-50. And I think it boils down to what your definition of a horror film is. Yeah. The first clown in horror was, for a lot of people, is portrayed by Lon Chaney in He Who Gets Slapped, Life is a Cruel Joke, 1924, silent film. Now, the funny thing is, if I didn't know better, I would swear this was a Joker origin story.
Oh, wow.
Because, so Lon Chaney's character is, he's a scientist, and his work's stolen by a guy he thinks is his friend. So is the love of his life. And, he's called a fool, a clown, and he goes and becomes a clown. Years later, the second love of his life gets stolen by the same friend.
Oh, wow.
And all he can do is, you watch him on film have a psychotic break. All he can do is laugh. He just, he laughs. He reaches that point where he went from anger to just laughter. And this is why I say it depends on your definition of a horror movie, because by today's standards, this movie wouldn't count. You wouldn't really consider this a horror film. But in 1924, where everything is kind of new and, exciting, you have a clown that basically arranges the death of two people by lying. That's horror.
Yeah.
I don't even care if this is a spoiler. This movie came out 100 years ago. Basically, he gets locked into a room, and there's, it's a circus. What do circus have? Caged lions. And he backs the lion's cage up to this door, sneaks out, goes into the room through another door, locks that door, and he tricks the guy who's stolen two of his women now, and the girl's dad, into opening said door, and the lion comes out and eats them.
Wow.
Like, if that doesn't count as horror, I don't know what does.
Well, yeah. And you could make the argument that some of the classic horror movies of even the Universal genre wouldn't be considered horror.
I say
today.
By today's standards, they're
because
not.
It's not shocking. It's not the jump scares. It's a building of suspense. That's what they considered horror. The Universal, like Dracula and The Mummy, Frankenstein, all of those, when you show them to someone who is not a fan of horror and horror history, a lot of times they turn it off because it's boring to them. Because there's not a jump scare every 30 seconds. So there's not some of the elements that they're looking for. But back then, people would go to see these movies and they would, be terrified because of the suspense that was built. And there was more emphasis put on what you don't see and what you never get to see. And that's where you're at here. Absolutely, that would be considered horror in my book.
Well, it's like you're watching this movie and you expect it to end with this guy basically offing himself, because anything that could go wrong in his life is going wrong in his life. And he flips it, like I said, loses his shit, and he sets a lion free to eat the people that have wronged him. I mean,
yeah.
Even by today's standards, I wouldn't have seen that coming. Hell, I didn't see it coming.
Right.
I watched this movie probably 20 years ago. So I was like 10. Well, I guess it'd be longer than 20 years ago. But right around when I was 10, because it was right when I was digging into like the Universal and the black and white horror and all this stuff. And so like I was aware of it, kind of forgot about it. And then digging into this, I'm like, okay, I need to watch it again. And yet you watch it and you don't expect to see people eaten by a lion near the end of it. It's this movie of this guy crumbling and falling apart and trying to make the best out of a bad situation. And it's like, you feel really bad for this guy. And then he lets the lions free and it's like, oh shit, he really has had enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's another good point about why clowns work. It's very easy for a clown to draw your sympathy. It's extremely easy because clowns are supposed to be happy. They're supposed to, be entertaining. They're supposed to bring joy to those that like them.
So they're supposed to make you laugh. They're
supposed to make you laugh. And when a clown is sad, you feel bad for that clown. When somebody does a clown wrong, you feel bad for that clown. So they can be a sympathetic character, and then when they unleash that anger or they go seek the revenge, it paints them as just an evil bastard.
Well, and that leads to like the next starting point of the clown craze, as it were, and that's Joker in the 40s. And, people will say that's really where this kicked off. And I just want to take a step back. And I think ultimately there isn't a moment when this kicked off. These are building blocks.
Sure.
The Harley Quinns and all that of medieval times built to using them in literature. Literature built it to Lon Chaney. And then ultimately that leads back to it becoming a popular character in comics. And then unfortunately that leads to where we'll go in like the 70s here shortly. But, and then it really kicked off. But it's not like vampires where it's Dracula. Dracula was what, kicked it all off. Wolfman kicked off the werewolves. Clowns, It's always been incremental. Each one adds a new layer to the story, to the lore, as it were. And then, we get to the 70s, into the 80s, and we have a guy in real life murdering people dressed like a clown.
Right.
And I think this is really where the public perception of, clowns can be evil really took its turn, because you have this guy, John Wayne Gacy, who is literally the epitome of everything we just talked about. On the outside, he looks like that, the clean-cut guy next door. He's the nice guy. He's, he looks like he could be a very sympathetic person.
And he's a birthday clown for children.
And he's got bodies buried under his house.
Yeah.
That ultimately kicked off where we go, because what magazine was it? Give me a second. National Lampoon used him as inspiration for Frenchie the Clown.
Oh.
In their short comics, in the 80s. So it's interesting how this whole dichotomy works. You have a guy who's inspired by one thing, inspires this whole other genre. It's just interesting to watch this all unfold. Before we get into like the clowns, I do want to mention, and this is, I sent you the pictures, and listeners, feel by all means, please look them up. One thing I thought was really interesting in looking through everything is the similarities between the clown that Lon Chaney plays, and Twisty from American Horror Story.
Mm-hmm.
If Twisty wasn't inspired by that character, I would be surprised.
Yes. I saw that when you sent those. I thought, boy, that's you can really tell that American Horror Story, which from what I've seen of American Horror Story, I haven't watched a ton of it, but from what I've seen, they do their homework. They are very thorough with, knowing the history and drawing inspiration from it. And I think, they did a great job kind of combining some elements from that early clown movie. And so, some other maybe clowns from history. I think they did a great job, blending some of the better elements together.
No, absolutely. Because, like, in this case, I mean, the three-prong hair, the eye makeup, yes, in Twisty's case, they over-exaggerated and made the mouth more modern, more horrific, but the outfit's almost the same. I mean, it's just, 90 years difference, and it's almost the same clown. It's astounding.
Yeah.
So let's dive into just popular clowns in horror, and I guess we could start in the 80s. We couldn't talk about this without talking about Pennywise.
Right.
For most of our generation, that was really our first look at like a horror clown. And even if it is a little silly and, whatnot, he was still terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Tim Curry is terrifying when he wants to be. And to have this clown that basically knows what you're afraid of, and the miniseries that was on TV, the one that was it actually, I was kind of surprised when I go back and look that it was in 1990.
Yeah.
it seems like it was like way earlier than that.
Yeah, so it definitely seems like it's older.
Yeah, it seems like an 80s thing. And it might be because of some of the people that are in the miniseries. You had John Ritter, which people a lot of times remember from Three's Company, an 80s show. Tim Reed, people remember him from 80s TV.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be why it gets so crossed up in people's minds, because there are some iconic characters that they played that were staples of the 80s sitcoms and television. But when you think back about it, the book that it was based on from Stephen King, it kind of it deviates from the book a little bit, not bad, but a little bit. But you're presented with this clown that really has no definite backstory, that they're trying to piece together the backstory, and it knows what you're afraid of, so it can push those buttons and it feeds off of that. That's unsettling when something can dial into your brain that well, and basically it presents itself as whatever is going to just scare the hell out of you. I think that might be why so many people relate Pennywise to, that's the first time that they've seen a clown in horror like this. And that's also, depending on what age they were, that's something that, really cements itself in your brain, how terrifying it actually was.
Well, and conversely, opposite Pennywise, around the same time, we had Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
And again, goofy ass movie, but still scary. You have these big over the top clowns that, like you said, don't talk, that are just going around and cocooning people in cotton candy. So two things that are commonplace that are now becoming evil: clowns and cotton candy.
Yeah, and I love cotton candy.
I don't want to be cocooned in it.
No. I kind of freak out when I get a little bit stuck to my fingers, but I mean, they used other parts of like things that are synonymous with clowns as well.
Mm-hmm.
The balloon animal dog that came to life. They used like the giant hammers. They had giant oversized boxing gloves. Just things that are cartoonishly non-threatening that became very, very threatening. They put their little clown magic on it, And
I mean, their ship was the traditional like big top circus tent. So,
right.
The imagery in this movie alone sets it up. So if you're watching this as a kid, you don't necessarily want to go to the circus.
No. And for that being kind of, basically it's a one-off movie,
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to do sequels for ever since. They just haven't materialized. They haven't gotten them to completion. That movie has really cemented itself. When you can basically mention Killer Clowns from Outer Space to 3 generations, maybe 4 generations of people, and you'll find people in all those generations like, I love that movie. Oh my God. I know people that are, 20 years younger than me, and some even that like teenage children of friends of mine,
mm-hmm.
that absolutely love this film. It came out when we were teenagers.
Yeah. And it's transcended horror into pop culture. It's a pop culture staple.
It is. It also kind of ushered in. I mean, there were horror comedies before this,
mm-hmm.
But it kind of ushered in this. You almost ask yourself, is this movie safe to show a kid to introduce them to horror? And I've had people actually ask me that, and I said, well, it all depends on the kid, because some kids will watch this and laugh because it's silly and over the top, and some are going to be terrified of balloon animals, cotton candy, popcorn, pizza deliveries. They're going to be terrified of any of these things because of how they're used in this movie. So yeah, it's a good gateway movie to introduce a child to horror, but it's also a good gateway to give them childhood trauma.
And, in that vein of, evil clowns in pop culture, there's Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal,
Mm-hmm.
video game to now TV show, and it's, you have this, again, it's just this, character that has now has its own following, a little larger than life.
Right.
I mean, hell, he's played by Samoa Joe.
Yeah. Yeah.
A very large man.
Yeah. Sweet Tooth is very intimidating, even in the video game,
Mm-hmm.
which I played that video game quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day. He was very intimidating in the video game. His vehicle was intimidating, and that's why it was so cool. That's why I was drawn to it.
Yeah. Like everything about him screamed, "You want to be me." The character designers nailed it with that guy.
Oh yeah.
Some would even consider Doink the evil clown archetype, because he typically played the bad guy, and he not murderous, but he was always he was mischievous. He was he's typically a heel. He was out to foil the good guy. He was an asshole.
He was, and depending on, we're probably going to do a little dive into some wrestling talk, which, surprise, surprise, depending on who was playing Doink, he could be just mischievous, like he was in his later run when Ray Apollo and Steve Kern and Steve Lombardi were portraying him. When he first was conceived as a character, Matt Bourne played him, and Matt Bourne put a lot of himself into that character. Matt Bourne was a little bit unhinged, a little bit psychotic. So that's where, when the idea was pitched that, we're going to have this evil clown, when they first introduced this character, he was in the audience entertaining the kids. So he was kind of portrayed as a good clown, an entertaining clown, almost like a mascot for WWF at the time. And then something happened, and he, threw a bucket of confetti on someone, and then turned around and threw a bucket of water on one of the good guy wrestlers. He started doing those more mischievous things, and it led to him jumping the rail and attacking someone. And then now all of a sudden, here's this clown that's been portrayed, just like I said earlier, as entertaining children, being the funny guy, now committing acts of violence against someone that these kids love, And Matt Bourne's portrayal of Doink was significantly more psychotic than anybody else, just because that was Matt Bourne. That was him. He also, I know that Mick Foley has been kind of credited as one of the first people to have entrance music that was very like demonic and evil when he was Mankind. And then when he was done committing all this violence, it was a very soft piano music. Like it was soothing. Like he has soothed whatever was
he soothed the savage beast.
Yeah, he soothed the demon that was troubling him. Doink had different entrance and exit music as well. But a lot of times it would be very, like happy calliope type, music. And when he was done doing all this evil, it was a really dark, kind of dirgy calliope. That's actually my alarm. That's my ringtone for my alarm to wake up in the morning.
It was the opposite. He comes out this joyful, happy guy, and then the switch is flipped, as it were, and he leaves this just demented, violent entity.
Yeah. I loved Matt Bourne's portrayal of Doink. It was awesome. But yeah, evil clown.
And every chance I had to play him in a video game, he was my pick.
Yep. Absolutely. So we talked about Pennywise a little bit. We talked about the early incarnation of Pennywise. Now, in the later part of the 2000s, around 2017, they remade it, and it ended up being two movies. I kind of felt like it's one thing. We've talked about this before on other episodes. I have very mixed reactions about remakes and reboots. And I went into this one with a lot of skepticism because it wasn't Tim Curry, for one thing. I didn't know how it would be, how they could top something that was a staple, memory and a staple fear of childhood for so many people. I think they went back and they kind of stuck more to Stephen King's vision of what Pennywise was supposed to be from his books. I think they did a pretty damn good job doing their reboot, their remake.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he at times portrays things other than a clown. He was a leper at one point. He was a character from a painting that terrified one of the other children. Abusive stepfather, and then he turned into the giant spider creature that he was supposed to be in the book. So yeah, I think they did a good job kind of digging back into the roots of what the movie was supposed to be, or what the story was supposed to be, at least, and then giving a good kind of backstory and history to why this thing, is terrorizing this town. So as far as that goes, taking a classic staple in clown horror history and reviving it for a modern generation, letting a new generation see it through their eyes, through their expectation of what a horror clown should be. I think they did a great job.
And, it scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
If, as a kid, I would have seen the remake, I probably would have shit my pants.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was dark. It was twisted. I mean, it was just pure malevolence, pure evil. And I loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
And at some point, we'll have to sit down and dive into those two movies a little bit more. But, just the way, like, as far as reboots go, they really captured, not heart and soul doesn't seem like the right wording, but the heart and soul of Pennywise.
The essence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did a great job on that one.
And along the road, we've gotten, Killjoy. We've gotten the little clown doll in Poltergeist. There's hundreds of horror clowns.
I'm going to tell you, that little clown doll in Poltergeist, that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And I, with a lot of this stuff, when you get older, you look back at that and you kind of laugh and you're like, I can't believe that scared me. And then I went to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Vegas, and he has that damn clown doll that was used in the movie there. And you go into basically it's a secret room. You walk into this room and they're showing you different artifacts, and all of a sudden a door opens where there wasn't a door before, and you walk in there and you're in this room with just that doll and a pane of glass between you, and that thing is about eye level. I felt chills when I was in the room with that damn thing, and it was right there. It's that scene has locked into my brain that hard that just seeing that the real thing face to face, I got chills. So there's something to some of these iconic scenes that you look back on with kind of laugh and go, oh yeah, well that scared me. I can't believe I was scared of a doll under the bed that was attacking a kid. Well, yeah, go look at that thing in real life and tell me what you think of that, because it was terrifying. I'm telling you.
I don't need to, and I don't want to. So around the time I would have watched Poltergeist, my grandma had a doll room because she was a doll collector. And, it was dolls of all shapes and sizes. Like, had I watched Annabelle as a kid, I would have opened that fucking door to save my life. But a third of this room were clown dolls. Watch Poltergeist. There's this evil fucking clown doll. Next weekend, I go over to Grandma's house to spend the night. Now, the guest room is right next to the doll room. And to get to the bedroom that I'd be sleeping in, you have to walk through the doll room and walk past this just army of fucking clown dolls. I didn't sleep that weekend. I put a chair on the door. I'm just sitting there, just rocking. I'm like, no, no. And like, I look back at that and I laugh more than I do, oh my God, I was scared at the movie. But I was terrified of that fucking room. And then fast forward to after she dies. And this is like 2006. I'm sitting in the house. Hell, I'm staying at the house for a couple months. And you just hear noises upstairs in that room. Nobody's touched these fucking dolls yet. And you just start hearing noises in this room upstairs. Nobody's upstairs, but there's noises in that room. I moved the fuck out.
Well, now you do know that we have a clown doll museum here in Nebraska, Plainview, Nebraska. So, I mean, if you ever want to take a road trip up there, we should go up and check out the clown doll museum.
We should. And we'll make an episode of it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Clowns have really found their way into like the independent film market.
Oh yeah.
You know, movies like Clown Motel, just too many to list, really. And ultimately, I think that's really where they shine, because you're not bound by studio restrictions and you get to just let loose and have fun. And that's what gave us Terrifier and Art the Clown. And we'll definitely get into that more in a little bit. But, the independent scene latching on to the evil clown has really helped propel this. And God bless them.
Yeah. It's an easy, people can say it's low-hanging fruit, a scary clown. But when you're not confined to follow what studios feel is acceptable or the norm, you can go anywhere with it. And I've seen some fantastic, shining examples of independent movies that took that clown character and that clown genre and just ran with it. You mentioned Killjoy. Killjoy was a great, it's a whole series of movies. And I thought that was an excellent, it has that sympathetic aspect to it because Killjoy was murdered and he comes back seeking revenge, but he's very demonic. So is he, the sympathetic killer clown, because he's just trying to seek revenge. There's some, there's some casualties that are kind of caught in the line of fire that try to stop him and they end up, being victimized as well on his path to vengeance. Killjoy, it has, everything that you want from a evil clown, though. It's got the humor, it's got the psychoticness, and if you go even further into the series and watch Killjoy Goes to Hell, he gets put on trial for all this stuff, and it's a trial of his fears, so it's all demons, and he's being tried in hell, and they really, that's one of Full Moon's really, I think spotlight.
To say top tier series, absolutely.
Yeah, it gets overlooked by a lot of people though.
And talking about like demonic hell clowns, I think everybody would yell at us if we overlook Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
Yeah.
Again, another pop culture clown at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he screams demon. And just that look, you can't, like, you could just say the clown from Spawn and that image pops into your head. Everyone knows who the hell you're talking about. They don't have to be a Spawn fan. They don't have to be a horror fan. They don't have to be a comic books fan. But at some point, they've seen this character and know where he's from. I mean, just this overweight, brash, loud mouth. If you were in wrestling, he would have been with the Nasty Boys. Fucking clown.
Yeah.
He's one I would love to see get a remake. Hell, even if it's a series around him and some of the other, demons and, Spawn pops in. Like, just something in that world, but it's centered around him, I think would be phenomenal. And honestly, I kind of want Kevin Owens to play him. And for those who don't know it, Kevin Owens is a wrestler. He's built about the same. He has about the same build, same brashness. Yeah. Watch a couple videos that you'll think it's good casting.
Absolutely. Now, kind of following that vein of indie films that had clowns in them. And I might jump around a little bit here because I do want to go back to the 80s in '87, there was a film. It's not a very good film, but it's disturbing, called Blood Harvest. Tiny Tim from the singer of Tiptoe Through the Tulips plays a clown. And it's, like I said, it's not a great movie, but his portrayal, and he's a bizarre character as it is. And then to see him with the clown makeup on, and he's doing some pretty, horrific kills, and he's, stringing people up in the barn. It's just disturbing to see that, and to see this character doing things like that. So I just wanted to mention that's one that gets overlooked. And if you do, want to see it, I suggest watching it's on Shudder. I think it's on Amazon. When Joe Bob Briggs presented Blood Harvest, because he had a lot of, Joe Bob always has a lot of good facts and behind the scenes, little tales. He really adds an element to, this film and makes it more watchable, I think. If you've got Joe Bob giving you commentary, and of course you've got Darcy the Mail Girl, she makes anything more watchable. Go ahead and check that out, because it's worth seeing, and it's even better seeing it with Joe Bob and Darcy giving their thoughts on it.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest. The 80s was more about just cranking things out.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot of great movies to come out of the 80s. It's in this genre anyway. And I mean, hell, I just did an episode recently on Blood Diner.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
It's fun. It's campy. Is it something I'm going to watch all the time? Hell no. But it's fun. Same thing with Blood Harvest. Is it a movie I'm going to watch on a regular basis? Not a chance.
No.
But one, if it's on, am I going to sit down and watch it? Yeah, you bet your ass.
I just saw a like a little trivial fact about Blood Harvest that adds another layer of kind of disturbing to this. Tiny Tim provided his own clown costume. He used his personal clown costume to wear in the movie. Why in the fuck does Tiny Tim need a clown costume?
Well, right now I'm more annoyed that I had that song stuck in my head. Tiptoe through the tulips. God damn it.
What a guy.
And, in regards to, you saying that, people think clowns are low-hanging fruit, they can say that, and yet you look at just this growing list of clown characters, clown movies, and none of them are the same. You might see, you'll see some inspiration here and there. Like we talked earlier, he and Twisty, 90 years apart, look very similar, act completely different, but they're not the same character. The movies aren't the same. Hell, Rob Zombie did 2 clown-related sets, 31, and then everything involving Captain Spaulding.
Yep.
Completely different clowns.
Yeah. So, I know anybody that knows me that, figured out we're going to talk about clowns. They probably figured that this was going to be me sitting here gushing over Sid Haig and Captain Spaulding. And I purposely didn't, bring him up. I was, I knew obviously we would get to
we would get to him, but it's like, it's so much like as big as he is, this genre is so much bigger than he is. And ultimately Captain Spaulding is what cemented Sid's legacy.
Right.
But, there's, and he does a phenomenal job portraying Captain Spaulding. I can't see, I mentioned this when I interviewed Lou Temple. I couldn't see anybody else playing Captain Spaulding or anybody else in that movie being played by anybody else. That was phenomenal casting.
Yeah. And what Rob Zombie did with his films is, instead of going out and trying to establish new stars, he went back, because he is such a fan of horror films. He went back and he cast all these iconic actors from horror films and from, the horror genre. That's why you see, Bill Moseley. Bill Moseley, he's been in tons of horror films. Chop Top. He was in Night of the Living Dead reboot that they did in 1990. He's done a lot of work around the horror genre, but a lot of people from the generation and the era that House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects came out didn't know who he was.
The same thing with Ken Foray.
Nobody knew who Sid Haig was.
Yeah.
Because of and he has a huge body of work in and out of.
Hell, I saw him in an episode of A-Team. He's in an episode of A-Team. I think he was even in an episode of MacGyver.
He was in Dukes of Hazzard. He was in MacGyver. He popped up all the time, but he also, he had Spider Baby.
I say it became one of my favorite games when I'm watching old TV shows is, wait for, find Sid. It's like, where's Waldo, but where's Sid?
He was in James Bond, Diamonds Are Forever. He played a henchman in that. He pops up everywhere, and it's one of those. He was what I call that guy. When you see a character that or an actor that you've seen in tons of movies, tons of TV shows, they always play the same kind of character. You don't know their name. It's like, hey, there's that guy. He was that guy.
Well, and then later on,
now he's Captain Spaulding,
right? Well, and you got to meet him through the course of us doing Grand. I had interviewed him prior, but Mark Atchison, the mailroom guy from Elf, the same thing. He's that face,
he's that guy.
He's like, oh, you're that guy. Now he's the mailroom guy.
Right,
he will always be the mailroom guy.
Yeah. It's funny when you look at the Rob Zombie movie, because when I started developing a personality for Tweaky, when I started actually talking, I looked at two characters to kind of do a study on and get a basis of a personality to build off of. And it was Captain Spaulding and Chop Top, Bill Moseley's Chop Top. Those were the two characters I looked at to kind of put together a personality. And I had a few interactions with Sid, wonderful guy. He absolutely loved Captain Spaulding. He said, he was very grateful that it revived his career. It brought him back into the public eye. It made him a pop culture icon. And he said, he basically, Captain Spaulding let him ride out the rest of his career on top, where he was, on top and in and out of things. He got to be on top for the end of his career and the end of his life. And I mean, that's, what more can you ask for?
Well, I got to see that up close and personal, because as many listeners know, I do wood burnings, and weekend of his 80th birthday, he's down at Crypticon, Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And I gave him a wood burning of Captain Spaulding. And this man, who's turning 80 years old, lit up like a 6-year-old on Christmas. I mean, he's just gushing over this thing. I mean, he's over the moon excited. And it was one of the most awesome feelings I think I've ever had in my life, just watching him go gaga over this, piece of artwork. And, watching him gush over himself, because like you said, this was what wrote out his career.
Yeah.
Now, Spaulding was, heavily inspired look-wise by Gacy's Pogo the Clown.
Yep.
But opposite, then he's also, personality, he's the opposite of Gacy. He's very brash, very uncouth. If you saw him out of makeup, you'd be like, you're a dick.
Yep. Exactly. He was that, he was that guy that being a clown is his 9-to-5 job. And he when he wakes up in the morning, he begrudgingly puts on the makeup and goes to work, and, doesn't like the people that come asking him questions, doesn't like the people that come hang out at his shop. He's just pissed at the world, and he just wants to, hang out, make his fried chicken, read his girly mags, check out his girly mags and kill people. That's basically what he wants to do.
And then the flip side is with Sid, complete opposite. You could sit and talk to that man for hours. You know, it
didn't matter if you knew him 5 minutes or 50 years. It felt like you were his best friend when you were with him. He never forgot why he was there. He was there because there were people that paid his bills basically for his entire career that bought the merchandise, watched the movies. He was there to basically thank them. And I know throughout his entire, when he started doing the conventions and the con scene, if you walked up to his table and you had something that you brought, he would charge you $10 to sign it. If you bought something off of his table, it was $20 and he would sign it. And he was like that. He said, I'm popular. I'm the most popular I've ever been in my career. He said, I'm not going to take advantage of these fans for liking me, and that class act. One of the classiest celebrities I have ever encountered.
Yeah, he as far as pricing goes, he killed it. I mean, if he had to put money out, he had to make his money back. But if it was something you brought, hell, honestly, even if it was something you brought and you were going to resell, he's not out any money.
Nope.
He didn't care.
No. Yeah. That's, huge influence on me as far as portraying a clown, and just in interaction, a huge influence on who you should be and how you should treat people that, look up to you. Really.
Well, and Spalding was really the last big pop culture clown until Art.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we got the relaunched Pennywise.
Right.
But even he hasn't reached the merchandise peaks that Spalding has.
No, he Art is he's getting there, definitely. And a lot of people don't realize Art has been in 4 films now.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, a couple people I know are just recently going back and watching the early ones with the original actor.
Yeah, he's been in more films than just Terrifier. But Art the Clown, the first Terrifier, I haven't seen the third one, but the first Terrifier, I watched it, and what I'm going to say is going to sound exactly the opposite of my feelings on the movies, because I can't say I enjoyed the movies. I liked them, to watch them. I did enjoy the experience of watching them, but to me, it's what I call gore porn. It's extreme kills, it's extreme blood, and that's something I generally don't like. But they're doing it in such a way. They're very unique extreme kills. They're very unique ways to gross you out, So and they use practical effects. So that's something that's impressive to me as being a special effects artist. That's something that's very impressive.
And I've probably said this at least 100 times now. Terrifier was a slaughter fest.
Oh yeah.
You get to Terrifier 2, there's more story, there's more character development. Yeah, you still get the over-the-top kills and the gory kills, but there's more of a movie there.
Right.
And so as a franchise, it's growing, it's finding its teeth. It's becoming more than just how can we kill and make it unique.
Right.
And that's, for me, that's why I'm so fascinated with the Terrifier franchise. It's like, okay, where is this going? Because yes, Terrifier, the kills were over the top. They were outrageous. Hell, Art broke one of the unwritten rules of horror and used a gun.
Right.
Which, crazy, out of all the kills in that movie, him pulling the little snub nose out of his shoe, I think took me aback more than anything else in that movie.
Yeah.
Because the killer never uses a gun. That's just, it's the easy way out. And here you have a guy who's, fuck it, boom. It's that scene from Indiana Jones. Well,
not only that, he mows down in part 2. He mows down all of the kids at the Clown Cafe with like a Thompson submachine
Yeah.
gun. You know, it basically shows he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't follow rules. We don't even know what he is.
Yeah, we his backstory's a mystery. His motivation's a mystery. And again, something I said multiple times. He's not Jason. He's not Freddy. He's not any of these other slashers that we've gotten to know, where their boundaries are clearly defined.
Right.
And really up until Art, kids have been off limits.
Yep.
He doesn't care if you're a kid or a 90-year-old woman. If he wants to kill you, he's going to kill you.
Yep.
And it's insane because now you sit down at one of his movies and you don't, off the top, you don't know who's going to survive. And at least for me personally, that's one of the thrills of watching those movies is you don't know who's making it out. You can't just say, they're going to make it. They're safe.
Yep. It's so unpredictable. And I think that's the direction that they have to take it is the not only the unique ways to have a slaughter fest, because you see the slaughter fest where they use a singular weapon, and that's how okay, they're going to slash them with a machete, or they're going to slash them with a razor glove, or whatever. He doesn't have a defined weapon. He doesn't have a defined target audience for being a victim. And we don't know what his motivation is. So it seems like he's just trying to,
rack a body count.
Yeah, rack a body count and shock and awe, and to traumatize those that find the scene, because you have, I can say certain, even if people, maybe haven't seen the film, they know about certain scenes in part 2, the mashed potato scene, or traumatizing. Hell.
Part 1, there's the bathroom scene. There's, the hacksaw scene. And they're just certain phrases. Oh, yep. I know what you're talking about. Yep. Okay.
You don't even have to really see the film. You've seen something about it. So yeah, they're kind of changing up the rules. So I have an interesting sidebar story related to clowns and Terrifier 2 in particular. So Terrifier Part 1 was very independent and had to find its ground to get the ball rolling. Terrifier 2, they brought in a production company, and I happened to have done some work with this production company. We went down to Arkansas to do some special effects, and it was this company, Fuzz on the Lens is what the company's called. So do you remember the Staten Island clown, where they were having this clown sighted at different places all over Staten Island?
Fucking Michael and Jason.
Yes, it was Michael and Jason from Fuzz on the Lens. They started the mysterious clown sightings that kind of swept the nation for a couple of years. You would see a random clown on a back road somewhere just hanging out, and people were getting really freaked out by this, thinking it was some kind of like a cult movement. They were thinking, and it was just people going, "Oh, they're doing that in Staten Island. I'm gonna go get a clown outfit and go scare people." I mean, people were putting themselves in danger because that fear. It started to snowball, and the more people that decided to jump on board that snowball, the worse it got. But it was Michael and Jason from Fuzz on the Lens doing this clown thing. Now, when we were filming down in Arkansas, those guys were there. They were the production company. That damn clown was not in our movie, but he showed up on set. One day, the clown just wandered in, and we were like, holy shit, there's the Staten Island clown. And we're like, which one of these guys? We knew that they were behind it at this point. We're like, which one of these guys is in that outfit? And we started looking, and we're like, oh, it's, so-and-so. This guy here is missing. About the time we would figure that guy was missing, he would walk in, and we would go, oh, it wasn't him. And we'd look, and the clown would be gone. We're like, it had to have been him. It had to have been him, because the clown left and he walked in. About that time, the clown came back. And we're like, now who's missing? Because this guy that we thought it was is here. Now who is it? And we're like, okay, who's missing? So you'd have to do another head count to see who was missing. Those guys were damn good at what they were doing. And they, I think, kind of parlayed that into they jumped off the Terrifier thing and they ran with it.
Their ability, their phenomenal ability at misdirection is what makes them so good as a production company. If you haven't watched their new movie Stream yet, you should. There's tons of that in there where, you think you have it.
And you don't.
And that comes from, just Michael's creativity. He is a very creative individual. I think I've had him on 3, maybe 4 times now.
Yeah. And great guys. They're
absolutely
really great guys.
And if you go back, and longtime listeners, you've heard it, but new listeners, go back and listen to the first time I interview Michael Levy. I actually cuss him out about the Staten Island clown thing. Because, we're talking about Terrifier and his, him working on the movie and all this. And, he talks about how he's a Staten Island clown. I said, you motherfucker. Mm-hmm. You almost got Halloween canceled. I was so pissed off at you.
Uh-huh.
And we had there was a good 5 minutes where I'm just kind of laying into this guy about almost getting Halloween canceled.
Yep. Yeah.
And we've been friends since.
Like I said, they're great guys. So I had like I think 3 more independent horror movies that I kind of want to touch on, if you don't mind. Okay, so let's start out with Scottish film. It's a horror comedy about a zombie clown called Stitches.
Oh my God, yes.
This movie it's hilarious in the kills. The ways that he kills people is hilarious. But it is basically, he's an alcoholic clown that lives in a camper, and he has to do these kids' birthday parties, and he hates kids. So he goes to the birthday party, one of them, and these kids basically just torment the hell out of him. And they end up causing him to have an accident that kills him. So he comes back as an undead clown and seeks out all of these. They were kids. He seeks them out as like teenagers and young adults. And some of the kills are absolutely hilarious. Scooping out a kid's brains with an ice cream scooper. I believe he kills one girl with a balloon pump. He blows her up. It's that combination of kind of dry European humor, like the British humor type, thing. Although it is in Scotland, and that has nothing to do with Great Britain. But it's that style of dry humor mixed with terror and hilarious kills, and the comedy, is top notch. They also, though, dive into kind of it's part of the clown lore, where to trademark a clown's face paint, they paint it on an egg, and they go into that lore and that kind of tradition, turning it into somewhat of a secret society. And it turns into a pretty major plot device. So I'm not going to spoil that, because this is a movie, although it came out in 2012, it's a movie worth going back and seeing, because it's so different. It's awesome.
Well, and Stitches really captures everything we've been talking about this whole episode. It pulls off the evil clown archetype. It, plays on literally any fear you could have in regards to a clown. It, plays on just your base fears of, is this guy who's coming to my kid's birthday party going to be a psycho or not?
Yeah.
And it's an independent film.
Very independent.
And it goes back to what I said. The indie circuit really gave this, the clown subgenre a place to shine.
Oh yeah. Another one that, this is one I had to track this down, because I heard about it for years, but it hadn't been released, and I had to track it down. It was produced by Eli Roth, and Eli Roth, I believe, even he starred in the movie as well. Yeah, he did. It's just called Clown, and I had to track it down on basically a pirate website to watch it, because it was all over Fangoria. It was all over the horror news websites, but you could not watch it.
I remember seeing about it, but I've never seen it.
Oh, it's okay. This one's worth seeing. The basic idea, and I won't, by telling you what it's about, it's not going to spoil anything because they tell you right off the bat what it's about. The basic plot idea, it's about clowns. But this guy, a father, wants to host his son's birthday party, and he wants to do so as a clown. Well, they had a clown hired. He canceled. So he's a real estate agent. Eli Roth, real estate agent. Clown cancels. He's running late. We don't have a clown for the birthday party. He happens to be in a property that he's trying to sell, and he finds this clown costume in the basement.
That's smart.
Yeah, what luck. So he tries it on, and it works out. So he wears it to the party, and after the party, he falls asleep with this clown outfit on. When he wakes up, he can't get the outfit off. It is adhered to his body. And throughout him trying to get this outfit off, he injures himself. The wife tries to pull the rubber nose off. She pulls the end of his nose off. So, it's just deforming him. His skin takes on a pale white tone. The makeup, every time he scrubs the makeup off until he's bleeding, the next day he's got scabs and this white complexion. The outfit just overtakes him. Very, very new take on everything. Where instead of the clown putting on the outfit to do horrible things, he puts on the outfit to do something good, and the outfit makes him do horrible things. It kind of overtakes him. If you haven't seen it, well worth a watch just for the originality. For that one, it's a good one. It was worth tracking down. It finally got a release 2 years after the talk. People were talking about it. It took me a year to track it down, and then the next year it got a release. So well worth a watch.
It's always how it happens.
yeah. It's if you didn't catch it on the convention circuit, you don't get to see it for years.
Yeah.
But somehow, I don't know if it was something that somebody pirated from a festival. It almost felt like it was intentionally leaked because they were having trouble getting distribution to create some kind of hype.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one. And the last one, I discovered this when I ran my own film festival with a group of guys. Circus of the Dead. It's by a Texas filmmaker. His name is Billy Pond. They call him Bloody Bill. And he put out a short called Doll Boy. Doll Boy, great film. Okay, really kind of twisted film about a killer that wears a porcelain mask of a doll, and he's very childlike in his demeanor and in his mentality, but he's a giant man, and he uses a sledgehammer to smash the heads of his victims. Very, it's a good kind of unique take on almost like a Frankenstein type story where the monster doesn't know any better, but he's doing things.
So it's Texas Chainsaw meets clowns.
Basically, yeah. So Doll Boy is actually in Circus of the Dead. And when I start talking about my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time, I have the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre on that list. I have the original Pet Sematary is on there. Trick or Treat with Little Sam, that's on there. Devil's Rejects is on there, and Circus of the Dead is on there. And it's fairly new, but I think that highly of this movie that it's on with heavy hitters like that. The basic premise of this is the circus comes to town, and the clowns are just rotten. The clowns are, I do always tell people there is a trigger warning because the lead clown, his name is Papa Corn. He's played by Bill Woodward Jr. The lead clown, he sexually assaults women. That's his thing. So I tell people it's a trigger warning. They don't graphically show it. They do show. They get it right up to the point of showing it, and then it doesn't show. So I don't want anybody getting upset that they didn't know that in advance. However, this film has the grittiness of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It has just the the rawness of those 70s exploitation films. And these clowns are basically trying to push their own moral compass on people that they feel aren't appreciating their life. So as the movie progresses, you learn that they pick someone out of the audience and basically wreak hell on their life until they appreciate what they have. The way that they appreciate what they have is it's all taken away from them. And they make them do
you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone.
And they do that to a very, very graphic and shocking end. The characters in this film, the clown characters, like I said, they're vile. They're horrible people. They are trying to, while they're very immoral, they're trying to push very moral things on other people by doing very immoral things, showing them, here's what that feels like, basically. It makes you feel dirty watching a movie. It really does. And I think I haven't had that kind of a gut reaction to a film in a long, long time. Everybody that is in the film, I am friends with almost all of them now. All wonderful people. They all really appreciate their fans, and their fans, they have a very rabid fan base. This is another one of those movies. You heard about it for so long, you didn't get to see it because it couldn't get distribution. They didn't want to water down what they did and basically do what they felt would be selling out to put their project out. There's a very friendly rivalry between Billy Pond, the director, and the Terrifier folks. Very friendly rivalry. But as he was trying to get distribution to get word out for his film, Terrifier came along and Art became the it clown. Mm-hmm. He became that clown. And so they're constantly throwing friendly barbs back and forth. So much to the point that now they have crowdfunded. They've been trying to do the sequel for years, almost 10 years now, I think. And they finally crowdfunded the sequel. And he cast David Howard Thornton in the movie. We don't know how. He's not going to be Art. He's probably not even going to be a clown. He's probably going to be a victim, just to throw that middle finger up at Damien and Michael and Jason and those guys, like, oh yeah, well, my clown killed your clown type of thing, and that's what I expect. But some of the ways that this movie is shot, like I said, it makes you feel gritty. It makes you feel like you need a shower, maybe some bleach. It really hits you in a way that a horror film has not hit in a long, long time. It, like I said, one of my top 5 films, and it'll make you sick to your stomach. It will make you really think about things. And that's and it's got its gross out moments. It's got its hilarious moments. It's very quotable. It hits you in ways that, like I said, a movie hasn't hit me in a long time like this one did.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be.
So, and I think you can still find it for free, to watch for free, like on Vudu or something.
Nice.
It was on Amazon Prime for quite a while, but I think it's on Vudu for free. So you can check it out. But like I said, just beware those triggers because they're there. They're all throughout the movie.
So this has been a barrel of laughs. Yeah. And we're going to have to dive more into some of these movies and some of the ones we didn't mention later on down the road. But where can listeners keep up to date with things you're doing or the autographs you're selling? Because you also deal in celebrity autographs and things like that.
Yeah, as far as celebrity autographs, I'm on Facebook. You can contact me personally, Mikey Taylor. My Facebook page for the autograph business is MJ, so the letter M -JAY Enterprises Select Signatures is where I'm at on Facebook. And I deal in horror, I deal in retro, pop culture, and pro wrestling. I don't do the football and stuff. I can find all that stuff for you. I know people that deal in that. I just don't know sports well enough. I stick with what I know. That's stuff from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, even back into the 70s a little bit. Horror, music, pop culture, and wrestling. So if anybody needs that, they can hit me up, either way, personally or on the MJ Enterprises page. If you want to see, although I'm not as active on that, on the next page, that I'm going to mention, I'm not as active year round. From early September through Halloween, I get a little more active on my Tweaky page on Facebook. It's just Tweaky. You can see what that clown's up to, and I do a little bit of traveling with the character, with the Scurry Face organization, and they kind of they're a networking and mentoring program that they select people to represent their group. And a couple of years ago, I was selected. But I've done some traveling around the Midwest and the South, Southern United States with the character, visiting different haunts and doing that. But September, October, you can find me in Omaha. I'm kind of tied to Scary Acres in Omaha. So
if you like hearing me and Mikey bullshit, for the low price of $5 a month, you can hear us calling all the action for Omaha's longest running professional wrestling promotion, PWP Live. And that's over at patreon.com/PWP Live. And those links will be in the episode description.
Yeah, you'll notice a little bit different dynamic on there than you had here today.
He's kind of an asshole.
I am. I'm not kind of an asshole. I am an asshole, and I'm good at it.
And you can find me and other great podcasters over at electronicmediacollective.com. Be sure to follow me on Facebook at Moose's Monster Mash and on YouTube at Moose Media Inc. Mikey, we're definitely going to do this again sometime because there's more of these, like you said, laundry list of movies, and we definitely need to dive into some of these. And remember, folks, he who laughs last laughs best. And until next time, Horror Hounds, mash on.
This has been Moose's Monster Mash. Come back for more chills and thrills if you dare.